The Young and the Restless spoilers. Fridays, January 17, 2025. A web of threats. Jordan's voice was cold and steady, her words like shards of ice piercing Claire's heart. You think you can outsmart me, Claire? That you can defy me and everything will be fine? Let me make one thing clear, you stay in Genoa, and everyone you care about will pay the price. Claire's breath caught as Jordan's threat sank in. She had heard rumors of Jordan's ruthlessness, but this was different. This wasn't just manipulation or control, this was a direct promise of violence. And worse, the targets of her wrath were the people Claire loved most: Kyle, Harrison, Victoria, and the entire Newman family. Jordan, please, Claire said, her voice trembling. You don't have to do this. I'll leave, I promise. Just don't hurt them. But Jordan's smile was devoid of warmth. Words are cheap, Claire. Actions are what matter. Prove your loyalty by walking away, and maybe, just maybe, I'll spare them. The pressure mounts for days. Claire wrestled with her conscience. She knew she couldn't let Jordan follow through on her threats, but leaving Genoa felt like surrendering to a monster. The stakes were impossibly high. If she stayed, the people she cared about would be in danger. If she left, she would lose her chance to expose Jordan and end her reign of terror. And then there was Sharon, a name that haunted Claire's thoughts. Jordan had been vague, refusing to confirm Sharon's location or even if she was alive. Every time Claire pressed for answers, Jordan deflected, her calculating gaze warning against further questions. You think you can save everyone, don't you? Jordan had sneered during their last conversation. Such a naive little girl. Sharon is safe. For now. But if you keep pushing, that could change. Claire couldn't shake the image of Sharon, trapped and alone, her fate hanging by a thread. She had to find her, but first, she needed more information. And she needed help. Seeking allies, Claire knew she couldn't face Jordan alone. Desperate for answers, she turned to the Newman family. Victoria and Adam had been wary of her involvement with Jordan, but they were willing to listen. Sitting in the Newman ranch's sprawling living room, Claire laid everything on the table. Jordan is threatening everyone, she said, her voice shaking. Kyle, Harrison, all of you. She has Sharon, but I don't know where. I need your help to stop her. Victoria's face was a mask of resolve. We'll do whatever it takes, she said. But we need proof. If we're going to bring her down, we need to be smart. Adam, seated beside Chelsea, nodded. Jordan doesn't make idle threats. If she's targeting us, we need to act fast. Claire, are you sure she hasn't slipped up? Anything that could tell us where Sharon is? Claire shook her head. She's too careful. But I'll keep pushing. I'll find a way. Chelsea and Adam, a new chapter. Meanwhile, Adam and Chelsea were quietly rebuilding their relationship. For years, their love had been a whirlwind of passion, betrayal, and heartbreak, but now they were determined to make things right, for themselves and for Connor. Whatever happens with Jordan, we need to stay united, Chelsea said, her voice filled with quiet determination. For Connor's sake. Adam reached for her hand, a rare vulnerability in his eyes. I won't let anything come between us this time. Connor deserves to see his parents happy, together. Their renewed bond gave Claire a glimmer of hope. Despite the chaos swirling around them, love and redemption still seemed possible. A dangerous gamble. Claire knew time was running out. Jordan's paranoia was growing, and her patience with Claire's questions was wearing thin. One evening, Claire decided to take a calculated risk. Meeting Jordan in the shadowy corner of a secluded cafe, Claire played her hand. If you don't trust me, she said, her voice calm but firm, then I can't help you. But if you want me to leave Genoa for good, I need to know Sharon is safe. Jordan's eyes narrowed, suspicion flashing across her face. You're not in a position to make demands, Claire. I'm not making demands, Claire countered. I'm trying to prove I'm on your side. If you tell me where Sharon is, I can leave without worrying. Isn't that what you want? For a moment, Jordan seemed to consider the request. But then she leaned in, her voice a low growl. Nice try. You think I don't see through you? You've been sniffing around the Newmans, haven't you? Claire's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her composure. I haven't said a word to them. I'm trying to protect myself, and you. A glimpse of truth. Jordan didn't buy Claire's act, but she let something slip. Sharon is fine. She's tucked away, far from anyone who could find her. That's all you need to know. It wasn't much, but it was enough to confirm Sharon was alive. Claire pressed no further, knowing any additional questions would only raise Jordan's suspicions. The plan unfolds. Back at the Newman ranch, Claire shared what little she had learned. Sharon is alive, she said. But Jordan has her hidden. We need to act before she moves her again, or worse. Victoria nodded. We'll put pressure on Jordan, make her feel the walls closing in. She'll slip up. Adam agreed. And when she does, we'll be ready. The family rallied their resources, digging into Jordan's associates and tracking her movements. Meanwhile, Chelsea and Claire worked together to support Sharon's family, ensuring they stayed strong despite the uncertainty. A race against time. As the days passed, Jordan's grip on power began to waver. Her threats became more erratic, her paranoia more pronounced. Claire knew they were closing in, but she also knew Jordan wouldn't go down without a fight. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Claire had put everything on the line to save Sharon and protect the people she loved. Now, it was a race against time to bring Jordan down before her threats became reality. Would the Newmans' plan succeed? Would Claire's gamble pay off? Or would Jordan's reign of terror claim more victims before it ended? A brewing rivalry. Phyllis Summers and Sally Spectra were no strangers to conflict, but their latest clash was shaping up to be one for the ages. Both women had their sights set on Billy Abbott, each convinced that they were the right match for him. Phyllis, with her sharp wit and fiery determination, believed she understood Billy better than anyone. Their shared history gave her an edge, or so she thought. Sally, on the other hand, saw herself as a fresh start for Billy, a chance for him to leave behind the baggage of his past and embrace a brighter future. Their confrontations grew increasingly heated, filled with biting remarks and veiled threats. At first, Billy tried to stay out of it, but as tensions escalated, he realized he couldn't remain neutral forever. Billy and Sally's next step. Amid the chaos, Billy and Sally found themselves contemplating a major decision: marriage. For Sally, it was a declaration of their commitment, a way to solidify their bond and silence the critics, including Phyllis, once and for all. Billy, though hesitant at first, began to warm to the idea. He had spent years searching for stability, and Sally seemed to offer the kind of love he'd always longed for. But as the discussions deepened, doubts began to creep in. Marriage was one thing, but what came after? Both of them had careers to think about, Billy with his ongoing ventures in media and Sally with her burgeoning fashion empire. Their lives were already demanding. Could they truly balance it all and make a marriage work? I love you, Sally, Billy said one evening as they sat together in the dim light of their shared apartment. But we need to think this through. Marriage is more than just a ceremony. It's a partnership, and we need to make sure we're ready for everything that comes with it. Sally nodded, her confidence shaken but not entirely diminished. You're right, she admitted. We need to figure out what our future looks like, together. Victoria's motherly concern. Meanwhile, Victoria Newman had her own concerns to contend with. Her daughter, Claire, had been acting strangely for weeks, distracted, evasive, and uncharacteristically withdrawn. Victoria, ever the perceptive mother, couldn't ignore the signs. She had always prided herself on her ability to read people, and when it came to her children, her instincts were rarely wrong. One evening, as they sat together in the Newman estate's grand living room, Victoria decided to confront Claire. Claire, she began gently, her tone laced with concern, I've noticed something's been bothering you. You've been distant, and I can see it in your eyes, you're carrying something heavy. Claire stiffened, her heart racing. She had worked so hard to keep her secrets hidden, but her mother's probing gaze made her feel exposed. I'm fine, Mom, she said quickly, avoiding Victoria's eyes. It's nothing. Victoria wasn't convinced. Claire, I know you. You're my daughter, and I can tell when something's wrong. Please, talk to me. Whatever it is, we can face it together. A tense exchange, but Claire couldn't bring herself to speak. The weight of her secrets, the danger posed by Jordan, the turmoil she had been navigating, felt too great to share. It's better if you don't know, she murmured, her voice barely audible. Victoria's heart broke at her daughter's words. Claire, she said, her voice trembling, do you have any idea how much it hurts to see you like this? To know you're struggling and feel like you can't come to me? I'm your mother. Whatever it is, I want to help. Tears welled in Claire's eyes, but she remained silent. She couldn't risk putting her family in danger by revealing too much. Victoria, sensing her daughter's inner turmoil, decided to give her space for now. But she wasn't ready to give up. When you're ready, she said softly, placing a hand on Claire's shoulder, I'll be here. No matter what. Phyllis and Sally, a moment of clarity back in the world of romance and rivalry. Phyllis and Sally found themselves at an unexpected crossroads. During a chance encounter at society, their usual barbs gave way to an uncharacteristic moment of reflection. What are we even doing? Phyllis said suddenly, her frustration spilling over. Fighting over Billy like he's some prize to be won. It's ridiculous. Sally raised an eyebrow, surprised by Phyllis's candor. You're the one who keeps throwing punches, she retorted, though her tone lacked its usual edge. But maybe you're right. Maybe this whole thing is stupid. For a fleeting moment, the two women shared a rare understanding. They both wanted happiness, stability, and love, but their pursuit of Billy had blinded them to their own worth. I guess we both need to figure out what we really want, Phyllis said, her voice softer than usual. And maybe stop tearing each other apart in the process. Sally nodded. Agreed. For now, anyway. The Newman family's strength as the days passed, Claire continued to wrestle with her secrets, while Victoria grew increasingly determined to protect her daughter. With the Newman family rallying around them, the stage was set for confrontations, revelations, and perhaps even redemption. Billy and Sally, meanwhile, took their first steps toward a future built on honesty and shared goals, while Phyllis began to question whether her pursuit of Billy was worth the toll it was taking on her own happiness. But in Genoa City, peace was never permanent. With Jordan's shadow still looming and Ian Ward's schemes in the background, it was only a matter of time before new challenges emerged, testing the strength and resilience of everyone involved. A beautiful dream. Sharon opened her eyes to the golden light of a sunny day streaming through the window. She was in her cozy home, surrounded by the familiar warmth of her family. In the kitchen, Nick was preparing breakfast, his smile as radiant as ever. Faith, Mariah, and Noah sat around the table, laughter filling the air. It was perfect, too perfect. Suddenly, Nick turned to her, his expression serious but loving. Sharon, it's over. You're safe now. I found you, and Jordan has been arrested. You don't have to worry anymore. Sharon felt a wave of relief wash over her as tears of gratitude filled her eyes. Nick held her hand, reassuring her that the nightmare was over. They left together, arriving at the hospital where the police confirmed Jordan's arrest. The weight of fear and uncertainty that had plagued her for days lifted, and she felt free, alive, and whole again. A cruel awakening, but the blissful scene shattered like glass. Sharon jolted awake, her heart pounding. Reality came rushing back, the cold, dimly lit room, the rough ropes binding her wrists, and the suffocating silence that surrounded her. She was still in Jordan's clutches. The dream had been nothing more than a cruel trick played by her subconscious. Tears streamed down her face as she let out a strangled sob. Why, she whispered, her voice cracking. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? Sharon's mind raced, searching for answers. She and Jordan had no history of animosity, no apparent reason for this nightmare. And yet here she was, trapped and helpless. The thought of her family, her children, and the life she had left behind filled her with despair. The absence of Cameron as the hours dragged on, Sharon's fear deepened. She had always found comfort in Cameron's presence, but today, he was nowhere to be seen. His absence only heightened her sense of isolation and vulnerability. Where was he? Why hadn't he come to check on her? Cameron, she whispered to the emptiness, her voice trembling. Please. I need you. The silence was deafening. Sharon's heart sank further as she realized just how alone she was. The thought of facing Jordan's wrath without any allies left her paralyzed with fear. Cameron's arrival just as despair threatened to consume her, the door creaked open. Cameron stepped into the room, his expression calm but unreadable. Sharon's tears fell harder at the sight of him, a mix of relief and frustration bubbling to the surface. Cameron, she cried. Where have you been? Why are you letting this happen to me? Why won't you help me? Cameron sighed, pulling up a chair and sitting across from her. Sharon, he said softly, his voice steady and deliberate, you need to stop fighting this. Screaming, crying, it won't help. Accept your situation, and I promise, someone will come for you. But for now, you have to stay calm. Sharon stared at him, disbelief etched across her face. How can you say that? I'm tied up in some dark room, held by a woman who has no reason to hate me, and you're telling me to accept it? Yes, Cameron replied firmly. Because if you keep resisting, you'll only make things worse. Jordan is dangerous, Sharon. You've seen that. If you want to survive, you need to play along. Pretend you're beaten. Wait for the right moment. A fragile hope. Sharon's tears slowed as she absorbed Cameron's words. Deep down, she knew he was right. Jordan was unpredictable, and defiance would only provoke her further. But the thought of giving up, even temporarily, felt like a betrayal of everything she stood for. Do you really think someone will come for me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Cameron's gaze softened. I know they will. Nick, Mariah, Faith, they won't stop until they find you. But you have to give them time. Trust them, Sharon. For the first time in days, Sharon felt a glimmer of hope. It was faint, fragile, and far from certain, but it was enough to keep her going. She nodded slowly, wiping her tears with her bound hands. Okay, she said shakily. I'll wait. But Cameron, please don't leave me again. Cameron gave her a small, reassuring smile. I won't, he promised. I'm here, Sharon. You're not alone. The waiting game. As Cameron's words echoed in her mind, Sharon resolved to bide her time. She would wait, watch, and gather her strength for when the moment to act finally came. Though the road ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear, Sharon wasn't ready to give up. And as long as her family was out there, searching for her, she had a reason to keep fighting.